You know, that wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. That performances was just lacked that intensity.
Yes, indeed. We're going to start on these performance rankings with, in the red, Johnny, Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs fans might be tuning in and thinking, this is very harsh. We won the game. We beat Bournemouth. But look, 2-0 down, bit of a sorry display. Came back to win 3-2. You'd wonder with Tottenham, because if you look at the Premier League standings, Johnny, you kind of have to be fairly positive for them because they're not doing that badly. But performance-wise, you'd be fairly concerned. Heung-min Son hasn't been the Heung-min Son that we've come to know and love. He's had some cracking games for Spurs this season, but it's consistency, I think. Matt Doherty's got a little bit of opportunities on the right back as well for Spurs, but they're having troubles. I don't know how I'd feel as a Spurs fan, because you got the win at the weekend, and yet scraping over the line is probably the best way to describe it. Yeah, I think the scrap for the top, third and fourth down anyway in the Premier League is very, very hard to call, because Manchester United have been solid, and in general the rest just aren't. They're not developing much consistency, or they don't look very. We could talk about Chelsea as well, but they don't look like they're that cohesive. And Spurs have been poor really since give or take the Man United game. You mentioned Son, like he got those goals against Leicester, and that looked like it might turn his season. I don't know what the story with him is. He looks a shadow of the player that he was, and if Spurs are playing a counter-attacking game, but he's not really on his game, and Kane's not that fast, like, so they're probably caught between a rock and a hard place a bit at the moment. And as you say, they won, and their point tally's not bad, but they're not really playing well. I don't know about Doherty as well. I don't know, will he be able to get a regular place in that team? I think I'm not actually sure he's at the level to be a really good wing-back in the Premier League, pace-wise or in general at this stage. Maybe I'm wrong. What I like about Doherty is and it's to his detriment sometimes as well, he's so honest in his post-match interviews. Like, he's one of these players that doesn't hold back. He says it as it is. If he thinks he's played shite, he'll say that. And he has been known to say that as well. So I think it's endeared him to a lot of Spurs fans, in that he's totally honest up front. When he's played bad, he'll say it. But I don't know. I'm starting to think that Antonio Conte does like him in recent weeks. I know Emerson was kind of out suspended for a bit, and that gave him a chance in the team. But there are areas across that pitch for Tottenham where you're like, they're just lacking. They're just not good enough. They can't get much control in games either. That's my kind of reading of them. And it'll be interesting if I think they're playing Liverpool shortly. It'll be interesting to see how that goes, because this Sunday, that's a huge game. Yeah, I don't know if we have Liverpool in on the rankings there, if they're listed or not. But they're there, just in the red with Tottenham. Okay, so we can probably segue into that. I mean, if you looked at the recent results, Liverpool were expected to beat Leeds, but Leeds is their XP and their XG, if you believe in that stuff. They're actually playing better. And in fairness to Jesse March, he was saying, like, we should be getting more points than we're getting. I don't know, with Liverpool at the moment, Phil Egan was just pointing out as we were coming out here, the striking thing for him was that Jesse March was imploring his players to get the ball as quickly as possible at 1-1, rather than back into play. Leeds hadn't won at Anfield in 20 years, 21 years, and Van Dijk hadn't lost a home league game. But I mean, I've watched a lot of Liverpool this season, and they're just not there at all. There's so many issues there. The goals that they gave away again, and Klopp. Is this going to be like the end? Is this the beginning of the end? Is this the Dortmund days all over again, where it just runs out of steam towards the end? Which will be sad, because it looks now like that's all Liverpool will have to show in terms of winning the leagues was that league they won during the pandemic, which I think just wasn't quite the same as much as they won the league. It would be lovely for them to win it in front of their fans, and they're miles off at the moment. And his reflection that I think, Shane, that they're in a battle for the top four is true, and they just look tired. They just look like their legs aren't there. Yeah, and the thing that would worry me if you're a Liverpool fan is there's this constant talk of the World Cup being a reset button. The words reset button have been used so often. This Liverpool team, they're like, oh, look, let's get to the World Cup, we'll reset. But there's no guarantee that after the World Cup things will improve. No. And you look at how the thing that worries me most, and we'll of course bring this up with Gareth Roberts later on,
is how slowly Liverpool are starting games. Like, so 12 Premier League games this season, they've conceded first in 8 of them.
Amazing.
And of those 8, 4 of them I think were within the first 16 minutes they'd conceded goals. So like, that's not a good sign.
Another stat which I was making this up on Saturday night. If you take out the Bournemouth game, Liverpool have a negative goal difference this season.
Yeah.
So that's incredible, really. Like the Bournemouth game, Bournemouth, funnily enough, did press the reset button after that and went on a great run. Liverpool, you just wonder, you know, Klopp, I think he spoke for like at length in one answer after the game, almost like a kind of a monologue in terms of like...
He looks pissed off, doesn't he, in the post-match press conference?
He spoke to Jan Fjortoft after, I think it was possibly the Arsenal game, and his body language, he just looks tired himself almost.
Quite snappy at reporters as well. Nothing wrong with that, of course, when you've lost a game and you're not
feeling
bothered
the pressure. But I think as well, I feel that the demands on players, you know, you read the paper today and you're like, Jesus, there are more games tonight again. Like, it's constant. Liverpool, as much as they can take it a little bit easier against Napoli tonight, they're banging into action again. And to me, they're just tired. They look tired.
Couple of comments coming in. Danny Mac 1 says losing 1 hour of daylight should be in the red. I think we'll all agree.
It seemed a good idea yesterday morning, but you know, when you wake up,
when you get the extra hour in bed as well, you're like, oh, this is great. But then you realise
it's a bit of a mad one, isn't it?
It's bizarre.
Changing the clocks around, like it's almost like, you know, taking the roads in or something. Like, who'd be thinking of this?
We're getting some comment in from Bob Dwyer as well, our resident Spurs fan here on the OTB AM comments. Tottenham in the red, away from home, 2 down and came back to win 3-2. 19 corners, dominated possession and attempts on goal. Good second half, 3rd in the league, top of our Champions League group. Liverpool 9th in the league, lost to Leeds at home this weekend and higher than them in the performance rankings. If that was United coming back from 2-0 down against Bournemouth away from home, you'd be lauding it as great character. I think there is an argument that maybe, look, tonight will dictate a lot of what we're thinking of Spurs at the minute, because if they can't emerge from this Champions League group, and Marseille, like I was just looking even the Marseille team, there's four players with Arsenal links.
Yeah.
So they were just like, you've got Alexis Sanchez, Sead Kolasinac, Matteo Guendouzi and Nuno Tavares, who's actually on loan this season from the Emirates. So a lot of Marseille players there who would absolutely love nothing more than to knock Spurs out of the Champions League group.
Great atmosphere there tonight and all that. So
yeah. Well, this is the thing. They've no fans, and Conte's got his touchline ban. So he's
no fan, of course, yeah.
He's not going to be He's not going to be there either. So, look, Bob, I understand. It is. Look, even Shane C says harsh on Spurs lads. This time last year they were 7th and 3rd in the Europa Conference League group. If they were managed by someone other than Conte, people would think they are overachieving. Yeah. I would you'd still have to have concerns if you're a Spurs fan. It's not all there. Like the win at the weekend, look, away from home, got the 3 points, fair enough. It's the manner of the performances, I think. Maybe harsh. Maybe we could have put Liverpool.
We could have put Chelsea in as well, to be fair.
Yeah, look, I'll apologise. I'll take the hit for that. Spurs should have been ahead of Liverpool there, I would say. But
Potter was a little bit harshly treated, I thought.
Potter?
That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, with the boos from the Brighton fans. Bizarre. Let's get to the Amber, Johnny. So Munster.
Munster, yeah.
Look, they lost Ulster, but
I think there are definitely pros, and we'll talk to Alan Quinlan. They couldn't deal with Ulster's maul at all in the first half. It was just time and time again. I actually, when Quinny was on last week, I was asking what sort of response would the Munster fans give, in the sense that they seem to be in transition for quite some time here, but you know, they've made a poorish start to the season. Jeez, it seemed to be an unbelievable atmosphere in the ground. Like when Munster scored the try in the second half, the place was going absolutely wild, and obviously then missed the conversion to potentially win the game. And in fairness, like Munster they kind of stretched the limit a bit. Ulster came in with a far from ideal prep as well, but ultimately they did win the game, and that's a question mark for Munster. But the very, very controversial yellow card incident as well, I'd like to talk about with Quinny. I thought that's the sort of stuff we need to stamp out of the game. But another defeat for Munster. Great weekend for the Irish provinces. Apart from Munster, Connacht were brilliant, played some lovely rugby and got a deserved win after falling, I think they were 12-0 down. But Munster, yeah, it was a defeat, albeit I think they'll definitely take some green shoots from it as well.
Just looking like the games Munster have lost, so when they lost to Cardiff, Dragons and Connacht, they were fairly brutal. The Leinster and Ulster defeats, you could maybe look at them and say, well, there were some good positive signs from those defeats, albeit they lost the games. Like missing over 20 players for that Ulster game at the weekend as well.
Yeah, I think Roundtree as well afterwards, in fairness, was definitely extolling the positives of it. They made some really poor, really sloppy handling errors in the first half, and could have won the game. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see when they play Leinster where they're at that stage, which is, I think that's about 4 games time.
Like, yeah, and that's the thing. You look at their remaining fixtures. I just don't know. They've got. They have to get these URC playoffs, next year's Champions Cup, if they can. 11 games left. Look at the fixtures they've left. They still have to play Leinster again. They've travelled Belfast and a double header in South Africa. So that's 4 very difficult games out of those 11. The other 7 certainly aren't on a par in terms of difficulty. So they could look at targeting those 7 games and get maybe 5, 6, 7 wins in them. But yeah, it's been one of those seasons where Munster fans must be just tearing their hair out and thinking. It's tough because it's probably a period of transition, and look, it's Graham Rowntree trying to stamp his authority on the team as well, but sometimes it takes that in any sport. It takes a transition period where you have to accept that results aren't going to be all there, but slowly but surely the results will get better, you'd imagine.
I think as well, like Leinster do this time again, but I think the necessity of having to bring in so many second string players is probably going to be a good thing for them in some respects longer term. Give them game time and see what they're about. And I think some of Munster's play from in the second half was very, very good, and I'm sure Quinny will have some positives from it as well. But yeah, it was a really good game actually to watch.
A Shifty Lad says, think Johnny should be in the red with those rankings. I'll take the blame for it as well. You can throw us both in it.
Spurs wasn't really my thing, but yeah, I suppose Liverpool.
We're blaming the producers, aren't we?
Yeah, we're blaming the producers. We're going to throw them under the bus here. But you could have picked a few, yeah.
Someone comments Manx, as if we have Liverpool on the bottom, and that comment comes in from someone with the YouTube handle Feed the Mank Rats, so that'll teach you what they think about Manchester United, I'd imagine. Yeah, but I think we can all agree. But look, we'll take Tottenham off the bottom and we'll put the losing the hour of daylight onto the bottom, and I think we can all agree on that one. And we'll put Tottenham and Liverpool next to each other.
It's going to set in now, yeah, tonight when you're, geez, it's dark at like 5:30 or whatever.
It's just one of those, when you see the traffic and the lights coming on, and it's not good. But,
it's definitely harder to get up in the morning. Like when I'm OTB AM, like I do this all year round, and when you get up in the summer and you're comfortably beaten by the dawn, it's beautiful to get up. This morning it's much harder. You're cycling down the canal, it's much colder, lights are on, and in some respects there's nobody home.
There is, yeah, and you're driving up the M1 like I was, with the other rat racers trying to get into the big city. Let's move on to the green, Johnny. I don't know what shade of green. I guess you can call it the yellowy green, just before the top one. But Shelbourne in the Women's National League, back-to-back titles for them after thrashing Wexford. Yeah, it's funny just reading this morning. There's a real. It's almost like shades of the brain drain of players to Australia in the Gaelic football side of things, where I just don't know the answers to this. Shells win back-to-back titles, but like speaking to our producer Emma coming out, who's totally immersed in this, she says they've lost 7 players in the last 12 months, July to July, give or take, likes Chloe Mustaki, and this is going to happen again. In the sense of, so Saoirse Loonan, Sue and Mustaki all lost, and in the sense of you celebrate these victories and then you wonder, well, where are these players going to end up next season? Are very good players. And also then in one sense that might be good for the other clubs, that they can kind of catch up, but I just don't know what the answer is to monetise it for the clubs, because like League of Ireland clubs are extremely well run at the moment compared to the basket cases that they've long been. But and the coverage that the women's game is getting now is almost like, as a League of Ireland fan, you're almost envious of it from the men's game, because League of Ireland men's coverage leaves a lot to be desired at times, but it's getting great coverage. Crowds are on the increase, standards are up. There's a brilliant end to the season with 3 teams in with a go. Shelbourne deserving to win, but I guess, Shane, the problem is Shell's problem started this morning, I guess, when they're now like, well, how do we try to lock these players down for next season? The likes of Abby Larkin, who's very young and promising as well. Brilliant player. She could become a poster girl for Irish football, but she'd probably, again,
end up going to England, because that's just the reality of it.
Yeah,
I don't know what the answer is.
I know, and even when you look at even the names on the scoring sheet, so Shelbourne beat Wexford Youth 4-0 away from home in Ferry Carrick. Jesse Stapleton, Alex Kavanagh, Megan Smith Lynch, Abby Larkin. You are wondering, and myself and Ger spoke to Joey Malone, the assistant manager of Shells, on the show League of Ireland legend, of course, on the show last week, and he brought up this issue, and a lot of people responded to it. The idea that at least League of Ireland clubs can get, in the men's game, can get the financial compensation that numbs losing players, certainly to some degree. In the women's game, they just don't have that, because they're not at that level of professionalism where they can get the money to compensate them. So it's.
I don't know if they can turn it into even a sort of a nominal professional system, such that at least you do get that compensation. And with Galway United taking over the women's aspect of the game in the city now, Shamrock Rovers coming in, I think that it's a really exciting time as well to to be involved in the League of Ireland in general. And I think for young girls who are aspiring to play now, there's an outlet there that just wasn't there anymore, and there's proper national recognition. So it's a wonderful time, but these problems aren't easily solved. Like, I've sympathy for Shells. I don't really know what they're going to do here. They're trying to get their house in order after, Shells not that long ago were hemorrhaging money as a club, and they're trying to get their house in order. They're trying to build links with college. They're trying to build links in the community, and they're thriving as a club. But it's cup final to come for the men as well, and obviously the cup final this weekend is going to be interesting as well. Athlone might try to get compensation, but it's a difficult one, Shane.
Yeah, and that's the downside of it. Of course, aside from that, congrats to Shelbourne on winning the Women's National League for the second year in a row, and as you said, Johnny, the way in which they did it, and 3 teams going into the last game, and Athlone Town as well doing their side of the bargain. They won 2-1. They needed to beat Bows, of course, and hope there was a draw in that Shells Wexford game. Scarlett Heron as well, I should give a shout out to, because she's a young girl who's from Monaghan, daughter of Colin and Audrey Heron there in Monaghan Town, and she scored the winner for Athlone Town in that game, and she's been kind of playing a lot of games in the Irish underage squads at the minute, and under 17, under 19 level, I think. So she's a top talent. So well done, Shelbourne, and hard luck to Wexford and Athlone, of course. You were just, while we're on the issue of League of Ireland, I know you were at the Galway match, for example, against Longford the weekend, but also unbelievably emotional scenes when Shamrock Rovers got their moment to lift the title, and Stephen Bradley's young son lump in the throat stuff, Johnny, when you saw for anyone who is unaware of the story, that illness, leukemia that his son Josh has gone through, and to see him there lifting the trophy with the Shamrock Rovers players meant a lot to the club, and clearly meant a lot to Stephen and his family.
Yeah, like obviously Rovers could be top of the list here. They actually won the league, I think, since their last performance rankings, which was last Monday. But obviously it almost does feel like a while ago now. It's over a week since they were officially crowned champions. But since then, to be fair, they performed very well against Gent Thursday. I've been critical of them in the Conference League, but in fairness, I think they just found they've been a little bit stretched by the roster of games and injuries, and losing the likes of Danny Mandroyo and so on and so forth. But they were very good. They could have won on Thursday night, and they got a very spirited draw and played Your Gardens Thursday, and I think they might give a good account of themselves despite their problems on the road. It was a fait accompli in terms of the Derry City game Sunday. Unfortunately, neither had anything to play for in terms of winning the title. Derry still have to confirm second place, but Rovers particularly got the job done. But I don't know, I mean, like, he's this lovely story, Stephen Bradley, about Pico Lopez giving his jersey to young Josh, and wearing it as if like a Halloween costume, one of these like onesies type thing. You can imagine the smile, and
that's what it's all about.
Rovers won the league partly because of the body of characters in that dressing room, and 2 of them who were I think both kind of were one side each of Josh as he came out to great reception in Tala, were Pico Lopez and Ronan Finn. And from my dealings with them and all I know about them, they're exactly what you'd want in a dressing room. Ronan Finn's had an amazing career. Absolutely. And he was very good at his peak in European combat as well, for a really dynamic member of that Shamrock Rovers team, a Dundalk team rather, and then changed himself to kind of become a right back for Rovers, and played well into his mid-30s in that position, and still does. And Pico, who I think they've badly missed in Europe, really badly missed, and have been so much better since he's come back in. And the image of him getting the crowds going to give Josh that big cheer, and Josh then mimicking his dad's kind of celebration in front, as it's It's amazing to see, and I have so much respect for Stephen Bradley. I have no idea what he's going through, and he's handled himself amazingly well, and hope you enjoyed the weekend, Josh.
Yeah, truly lovely moment, and what sport is all about. Just to touch finally, we bang out of time, but the final one in green, we have Katie Taylor, of course, after that brilliant win against Karen Carabajal on Saturday night. So I guess the big story afterwards, she was dominant, Katie, in this fight. I was watching it in the pub, and talk now, of course, of Amanda Serrano rematch in Croke Park. Eddie Hearn really pushing forward this Croke Park, as was Katie afterwards. Talk in the papers as well that Chantel Cameron could be a opponent. She fights Jessica McCaskill on Saturday night, coming in Abu Dhabi to become the undisputed light welterweight champion. That would give Katie the chance to become a two-weight champion in Croke Park. So if Serrano doesn't work out, maybe Chantel Cameron works out. But Johnny, to see briefly Katie in Croke Park fighting would be probably the pinnacle of her career as well.
Yeah, and I presume a lot of people in the pub were watching it with you as well. Like people were texting me to find out how to watch it, and there was a lot of interest in it. And like speaking of Ronan Finn, like Katie's longevity, it's amazing really. And maybe, I don't know, would you say there would be a song feel to it were she to have that big fight in Croke Park, but it would definitely be fitting in terms of her career and the national interest in her as well.
Absolutely. Listen, we've got two of the comments just to finish on. Comments from Patrick BQ. Well, we are starting summer here in Perth pretty soon. Beautiful spring day, 27 degrees. Life is good, lads. Jealous of the fact that it's not pitch black. And I would text in from my mum, Johnny, on WhatsApp. Lads, it's a good day when you can get up. No moan November. On that note,
your mother's a Monaghan lady, is she?
She's Monaghan lady, yeah.
But I was just thinking why your family is so sound and successful. It's that hybrid. It's the Galway Monaghan link, because it's the Galway stuff that comes out at times
Johnny.
as well.
You're too kind.
Yeah.
On that lovely note, performance rankings, Hannon family at the very top of the list in green. That is your performance rankings this Tuesday morning.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.